I think the adoption of this rulebook is a very significant achievement because the countries have now a clearer idea on how do they implement their national climate plans, how do they report on the obligations they've taken up. But on the other hand, of course, like many of the detailed rulebooks, a lot of the aspects are important in terms of the details of it. And I think we also see a couple of areas where we would have wished for a much stronger rulebook, and the main question is also, do countries now really step up and increase their national climate action immediately? It's almost 200 countries who've been negotiating it. A lot of it is at stake. Many of these countries are very poor and vulnerable and are very much affected by climate change. I think only in the last hours India stood up and made some reservations, but throughout the 2 weeks of negotiations we've heard different countries, different country groups expressing different concerns. But I think in the end it was very important to see that in particular the most vulnerable countries really drove the debate in the direction of higher ambition. In the past, mostly the developed countries, richer nations, had obligations and also experience how to measure emissions, how to report them. And now we are shifting the system where basically every country has to do its fair share. Ideally, we are not there yet. The ambition is not high enough, so we need to get to this fair ambition. But it's important to build capacities in countries, in poorer countries. It's also very important that these measurements are accurate, because we cannot afford to, for example, have loopholes or to measure emission cuts which have not been made, because we are already by far not on track with that. It means we need much more climate action currently to achieve the goals that the international community has set. One thing which we find is very important is that those countries who have understood the significance of the problem, and many of them are really severely affected in their entire destination, so to say, that these countries cooperate, that these countries exchange on the technologies, for example, they can use on ways to reduce emissions, and also put pressure on the laggards. One of the next steps important next year will be that the UN Secretary General invited for a special Heads of State summit for September, and it's now really up to civil society, up to business within those countries to basically push governments and to work with them that they revise national climate plans and that we really manage to close the emissions gap.